Blades fans, subscribe to Blades Ramble. Up the Blades.
As always, the Ramble is sponsored by Action Coach Sheffield. If you're a growing business and you want support to continue that growth, they are the people to speak to. Thank you for joining the team for their continued support for the Ramble. Today's Ramble is also sponsored by High Point Access. Thank you to them for their support. They are your number one stop shop for all your working at heights and roofing needs. If you mention the Blades Ramble when booking any works with them, you'll also get 10% off. What is happening, Blades? And welcome back to the Blades Ramble. I am, of course, Jimmy, and this is a new show. This is a new Day After Tuesday show, and that's exactly what it's going to be called, because we don't mention that word. I'm sure I will at some stage during the course of proceedings. But thank you for joining me on this afternoon or midday edition. I'm not sure whether this is going to be the regular time slot. We're just testing the waters with these sort of things, really. I think it's nice to break your day up a little bit and have something different, you know, rather than the usual. So we're regularly on at 7 and that sort of thing, aren't we? So it's nice to have a regular slot, and we'll find where this sits. It might be a 10 o'clocker, it might be a 2 o'clocker, it might end up going into the usual 6 or 7 o'clock slot. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. It's all based on your feedback. So thank you to everybody for their continued support. And I cannot get my head round. This is now something that we do full time. And because of that, because you're able to support me in that, I want to bring you more content and better content. So we're trying new things. As part of that, there's going to be a few changes to like the warm up and things like that. We're including a new Platinum Predictions, which will also be released as a separate video on the Behind the Ramble channel. That'll be released as its own entity, but it's only a short little thing where our Platinum Ramblers get to predict the results for the championship coming up, but it's just going to be a part of our warm-up show as well. So just trying to cram a little bit more in there. There'll no longer be a half-hour restriction on the warm-ups, because obviously my time is my own. The Portsmouth warm-up show will be tomorrow at 7:30. And after me just saying that there's going to be no restrictions on time, Tuesdays and Thursdays, just to let you know what the situation is, my daughter Sophie has football training 6 while 7. So I'm back usually about 15:15. So that's why whenever I'm on stream on a Tuesday or a Thursday, it's from 7:30 onwards, really, or before now, which it can be any time of the day. The warm-up being on Thursday this week is it's half an hour before. So it has to go at 7:30, and then I'm on battle lines with Connor at 8 o'clock. So it will be half an hour this time. But going forward, obviously, I've had to sort of rush through comments in the past and stuff like that. And I get it. And I've seen some, only a very few sort of say, oh, well, you know, the format needs to change a little bit with things like this. But this is an interactive platform. And we are comment-led a lot of the time, because it's your chance to have your say on what you think. So thank you to everybody for joining me. Today, what we're going to think about and talk about is the January transfer window. So we're looking back on the January transfer window. Was it a success? I would say resounding yes, it definitely was. However, not everybody thinks like that. And no greater example was my own father, Andy the Blade, who made his grand return to the Ramble on transfer deadline day itself, as we saw in the transfer window. Huge thank you to my dad for coming back on, because I know he doesn't feel like he's got loads to offer, but honestly, I mean, thank you to everybody for the kind comments about my dad as well, because hopefully he sees that and recognises that people love listening to him, love seeing him, and I want him on more often. I don't want to oversaturate him. Obviously, I don't want it to be the point where he don't want to come on or he's bored of coming on or anything like that. But at the minute, I'd like him to come on a touch more. If we can get a slot where I could have him on like even a monthly show, then people will look forward to that. So thank you to everyone for the kind comments from my dad. He is brilliant. He's one of the best things I have on the channel, as is everybody. All the contributors to the channel on screen are absolutely fantastic. And thank you to our Platinum Ramblers who are now joining in with that as well. So onto the football. So my dad didn't think it was an amazing window. He said it could turn out to be an amazing window, but he was slightly underwhelmed by some of the big money signing, if you like. Tom Cannon, slightly controversially, I would say, but I understand his point. It's a big financial risk. He hasn't really seen, and he doesn't just mean in the 2 games for Sheffield United, he means across the bits that he's seen across his short career, how 10 million quid is justified at the moment. He accepts that, and I don't mean to put words in his mouth, but I just want to give a bit of context. He accepts that it's data driven as well, but he just thinks he's not as, oh, brilliant, this is going to see us over the line, this is going to be it, because the money could have been spent elsewhere. And do you feel like the money could have been better spent elsewhere? On a Tanganga, for example, who was the name doing the rounds, I always thought he were being used for leverage, to be honest. I always thought he were going to be too expensive. But listen, I've got a Sheffield United head on, which a lot of us will have. We're not used to spending money like we have done this window. We're used to being a sustainable club that makes sensible, considered signings, slightly risk averse to a degree. We have invested in the club in the past, but it's always been with, sensible connotations, I would say. So I thought Tanganga coming in, Rob Holding, Tanganga rumoured to be coming in, Rob Holding ending up being the signing that came in, left Rob Holding in a bit of a sticky spot, I thought, because everybody, whoever we got, whether it was Jimmy Dunn, Harry Darling, Ryan Porteous, who mentioned at one stage, or now Rob Holding, they were always going to be compared to Tanganga, and that's slightly, I feel for him slightly, because he's starting off on the back foot when really he's a really good signing for us. We also got these 2 unknown lads from abroad, and I want to hear your opinions on it. We don't know an awful lot about them at the minute, but what I have done for you, because this is what we're doing to, and I've got time to do these sort of things. Well, I haven't, but I scrambled it together. This is a little breakdown on our 3 deadline day signings. Robert Samuel Holding. He's 29 years old, stands at 6'2". He's a right-footed centre half, currently playing for Crystal Palace, or not playing for Crystal Palace, as much of the talk has been. He's got another year to run on his contract there, but surely there's an opportunity to make this permanent if it works for all parties. So he started his career at Bolton. He made a total of 30 appearances for the Wanderers first team before moving on to Arsenal, where he made 162 appearances in total, scoring 5 goals, getting 22 yellow cards, but dropped down the pecking order slightly and ended up getting a move to Crystal Palace, where he's only played once in 2 seasons after a falling out with manager Oliver Glasner. He's a no-nonsense defender, likes to put his foot in, will put his head in where most won't. Although his fitness and match sharpness may come under question, I think this is a really smart signing for Sheffield United. If we can get him up to match speed quickly, he's straight in our first team. Now then, Jefferson Caceres, or Jeff as he will be known to us. He is a Peruvian left winger. He's 22 years old, loves to cut in and attack, as you can see from the highlights already. We've signed him on a deal until 2027 with the option of a further year. And he's part of our new data-driven development strategy. Now at 22, it's not really a kid that goes into the under-21s, although that may well be exactly what happens, since you can have some overage players. But he comes from Peruvian Primera Division side FBC Melgar. Chris Wilder appears quite excited by this new approach. He said, with the collaborative way we work with regards to signings, the options available to the club under the new ownership allows us to cast our net further afield. Jefferson's been identified using this strategy as a young lad who we're keen to develop. He's definitely one to keep our eye on. And finally, Christian Wachukwu, who we'll be calling Chris. He is a 19-year-old Nigerian left winger. So 2 left wingers coming in. What you tend to find, I think, with wingers, unless you're called Jezerin, you can play either side. So I don't think we're wed to them both being left wingers. As you can see, another one who likes to cut inside. We've signed Chris until the summer of 2027, but we also have an option of 2 further years on this one, with him being significantly younger than Jeff. And Chris comes in from Botdev Plovdiv for a nominal fee. He said, I'm looking forward to coming to Sheffield to play for United and continue my development. I look forward to meeting the lads and getting started. Oh, Christian Nowhere, oh, Christian Nowhere. That is that is for the old school ramblers that have been with us for a long time. I'm sure you will you'll appreciate that. I'm sure Prince Abdullah will appreciate that one too. Oh, dearie me. So that was a little bit of a rundown on our new signings. Again, I've tweaked a little bit in terms of how we did it last time. Last time I did a Harry Clark video, I just had the text on screen, completely forgetting that we are now on audio platforms, on Spotify and things of that nature. So if you listen to us via a podcast with my little commentary over the top, hopefully that gives you a bit more of a clearer indication about what these new boys will be like. 22 is, I mean, it's young, isn't it? But I'd have thought this model, if we were looking at buying cheap youngsters from abroad, we'll be looking at, 18, 19, probably 20 tops. So Chris fits that model. Jeff is slightly older. Rob Holding, let me know what you think about Rob Holding. Take out the fitness issue, fitness concerns, and no recent game time, which I admit is a huge question mark. And that's something else my dad talked about was, look, if we get the Rob Holding that was at Arsenal, then we're laughing. But we don't know if we're going to get that Rob Holding. So let me know what you think. I'm open to all sort of discussions about it. I'm just trying to think if there was anything else I needed to mention to you before I start jumping into your comments. Oh, yes. So as part of this, obviously there's loads of brilliant Blades content out there. Not just the Blades Ramble, but there's loads of other people where you can get your brilliant Blades content. And I am obviously someone who goes out and tries to get that hands on that content as well and keep abreast of what's going off. If you're not following the Bladesman on X, he's a news aggregator. I've spoken about him several times on the channel. Obviously, Danny Hall's a great source of news for Sheffield United, puts a lot of his stories on X that then link through to Sheffield Star articles that he's written. The Bladesman will gather stories from all over the place that mention Sheffield United. So it might be a new player coming in, it might be a player going out, it's whatever news is Sheffield United based. And he's started doing something. I say he, and this is an assumption, so I do apologise. They have put, because they're anonymous, nobody knows who they are, what they're undercover. But at the end of every transfer window, so that's at the end of the summer window and at the end of the January transfer window, they've started putting together a squad list that highlights the state of the Sheffield United squad, essentially. So if I'd have had a little bit more time, I'd have probably got comparisons from previous years. But I think it's a really good visual way, and apologies again to the podcast listeners, but I think it's a really good visual way to explain how healthy our squad is now. So it's in two parts, but I'm just going to get the first part of the sort of diagram, if you like, or sort of list. So there's a key here that he's put on. So if the player's in red, they've got half a year left or less than a year left on the contract. Yellow is 2 years on the contract. Dark green is 2.5 years left on the contract, because obviously we're in the January period, or just coming out of the January period. That's great. I've got a call coming through. Professional as ever. And the light green is over 3 years left on the contract. If they're highlighted in blue, and again, I apologize to our podcast listeners, but everybody that can see, everybody highlighted in blue there, as per the key, is in on loan, and they're out on loan if they're in italics. So looking at this, it's been sectioned off as well into position and also age. So we've got young Luke Faxon who's the goalkeeper with more than 4 years to run. We've got the main man, Michael Cooper, in goal who's in the 24 to 29 bracket, but he is just 24, who's got over 4 years to run. Ivo Gerbic has got 3 years to run on his contract, but he's obviously out on loan and doing a very good job from what I understand. I don't know whether he's returned from injury, but, that's at least him doing well and getting minutes abroad. Either says that he's going to be a decent backup for Sheffield United when he returns, or he's going to recapture some value and may well move on for a little bit of money, which is good. Adam Davis is the only goalkeeper over 30 years old, and he's got less than 2 years left on his contract. I wonder if this will be Davis's last season at the club, particularly if Gerbich stays around. Do we think we need backup anyway? I would like to have another keeper in so Luke Faxon can maybe go out and get some minutes, because he is very highly rated, was linked to a lot of high-profile clubs before he signed a new deal with Sheffield United. Jamal Baptiste is also in there. He's got a contract of 3 years to the end of the 2027 season, 2028 season, I believe. Anel is the one. He's the one that stands out into, because he's got less than 2 years left. So that is the one concern. Obviously, this is moving into our 24 to 29 demographic, but Anel Ahmedhodzic will have a year left at the end of the season. Rob Holding comes in on loan. I have every faith that this will be a really strong signing for us. And Reece Norrington-Davis, who's been classed as a centre-back here, which I think is a bit of a stretch, but I understand it. He's got 3 years left on his deal because he's recently signed a new one. He's not really hit the heights, has he? I think he's a left-back, and I think he needs to get out on loan, personally. And we need a little bit more assurance in the centre-half positions, certainly going into the summer. Jack Robinson is out of contract. The first one that we can see on the list that's out of contract in the summer. Sheffield United do have an option on him. It is in Sheffield United's interest to keep him sweet. Let's be absolutely right about it. He might not be part of our plans going forward, whether it's in the Championship or whether it's in the Premier League. I certainly don't think he's a Premier League defender. You may well think he's a good to competent to good to very good Championship defender, and that's all opinions. But ultimately, it'll depend on what Chris Wilder thinks, won't it, in terms of whether he's going to be with the squad next year. But at this stage, he has to certainly convince Jack Robinson that he's a huge part of the club. So I've always got that in the back of my mind whenever I hear him talking about Robinson. I think Chris Wilder's a really clever operator. Looking at fullback then, wow, are we stocked? Because now we've got 2 right-backs on loan, Alfie Gilchrist and Harry Clark. Not ideal at all. Not ideal. And I think this is where we can have a conversation about what's going to happen. Alfie Gilchrist can obviously move into the centre-back position, which would give us greater cover. I don't think Norrington-Davis is in that category, but yeah, young players as well. You look at that, there's 5 listed there. Sam Curtis is out on loan. He has 3 years left on his deal. Femi Sariki is still with the club, obviously has 3 years left on his deal. Gives us good options off the bench, does Femi. Harrison Burrows has over 4 years left on his contract, which is fantastic for Sheffield United. What a signing he's been as well. So Harrison Burrows, our starting left back. We've also got Jamie Shackleton, who's got 3 years left to run on his deal, but unfortunately has really struggled with fitness. And Sam McCallum, who's also got 4 years left. So look how strong that is. Look at the age bracket. Look at the security in terms of who we've got for how long. I think it's really, really good work. It just highlights how strong our assets now are within the squad. Look at names like Michael Cooper and Harrison Burrows on the longest contracts we've got. What kind of value are they going to offer us in the future? Absolutely brilliant. And moving into midfield then, Ollie Arblaster. I mean, we cannot forget about the captain. He's been injured for, unfortunately, the majority of the season. And looking at his recovery videos, of which the club have put out some great recovery videos, he may well be on course to return before the end of the season, because he looks ahead of schedule to me. But obviously, we don't want to get overexcited. So he's here for at least another 4 years in terms of his contract. Obviously, there's always a big offer that can come in for a young superstar. Sidi Peck's another one that we're lucky to have tied down. Had a really strong first half of the season as Sidi. Let's hope his workload, for him personally, let's hope his workload lightens a little bit, because I think we were really leaning heavily on Sidi individually at times. And yes, I'd still want him to be involved in and around the first team. I think he's earned that chance. But we can't have too much on the shoulders of such a young lad who was only probably expected to play 10, 15 games this season in total. Billy Blacker's also there. He's got another 3 years to run on his contract. Maybe a loan for him might be something to look at. Obviously, we're past the deadline now, so we're looking at longer term. Vinny Souza, the absolute beast, has got 3 years left on his contract. I'd really be interested to know if we've got a +1 on that, because we usually do, and that will put us in a strong position. Tom Davis is in a similar situation to Anel, where he can, he'll have a year left at the end of the season. He's obviously in that 24 to 29 bracket. He's on big money, Tom Davis, but he is also proven to be a real asset to this team. So I would certainly be interested in renewing him. But also there's the fitness issue that constantly hangs over him, unfortunately for him. And it's for him to prove his fitness, really, isn't it, to get a better deal longer term. Hamza Choud, it's not something we have to consider at the moment anyway, because I think we've more chance of holding on to Tom Davis. I think Nell's the one that we have to really negotiate hard with. Hamza Chowdhury's coming on loan. Absolutely superb signing. Had a brilliant debut. We have got the option to buy Hamza. I think we will hopefully get a chance to do that in the future. I had a discussion with Darren Smith on X because I've previously suggested that I know it's unlikely and obviously it didn't happen in the end, but we could have activated the option in Chowdhury's deal to buy him and then play the five loans rather than now having 6 and having to leave one out of the match day squad. Darren rightly said, why would Hamza do that? He's on Premier League wages. I think you can consider it now because the owners are showing ambition and sort of showing that they're willing to. He's not going to be on much more money, if at all, than Gus or Vinny. And I think you can do that. But Darren's argument was, why would Hamza do that? He'll might as well wait and see what's going to happen with his own club. His own club might survive in the Premier League, and then he's on a Premier League contract still. We may get promoted and then be able to offer him Premier League wages. So he's just going to sit tight. And I understand that. That's fair. Jez Raksaki, right winger, who has flattered to deceive, I would probably say. I'm not certainly writing him off. I think he's every chance of having a really strong second half of the season. He looked bright when he came on the other day, but he hasn't really got the momentum going that we'd all have hoped for. So let's hope Jez has a better run of form in the second half of the season. He's obviously on loan with us for the rest of the season. Andre Brooks, very stop-start as well. Injury has hampered his progress, unfortunately. I thought he started off really well on the right-hand side. Then when he came back from a concussion injury, really sort of struggled to get a bit of form and sort of looked like he'd lost a bit of confidence. And he's been hot and cold ever since. But do not give up on Andre Brooks. What a prospect this lad is. And he'll certainly be strong going forward, a strong asset to Sheffield United. Young Chris, we've talked about. I'd be interested to see if he stays in and around the squad or maybe gets a foreign loan. I think it's probably smart this season with him only being 19. Keep him in and around the under-21s. Maybe he gets an appearance on the bench a little bit like Baptiste has. We'll see. We'll see what happens with young Chris. But I think it's good to have that option. Louis Marsh has just signed a new contract with Sheffield United, a further extension, keeping him at the club for at least another 3.5 years. And he's gone out on loan to Fleetwood Town in League Two, which I've heard some say that he could have gone higher, and I believe he could. But I think Louis Marsh going to a level like League Two where he's got the opportunity, and this isn't guaranteed, but he's got the opportunity to be one of the main men there. And he did at Donny as well, but obviously Donny are a little bit more established than Fleetwood, I would say, personally. Donny are a bigger club. I know Fleetwood have spent more time in League One recently. He's got the chance to go there and claim like a number 10 or a number 9 spot of his own, playing men's football. A lot of us have thought Louis Marsh has got something about him. We're really excited for him. But maybe he just needs to toughen up a little bit just to get involved in men's football more. Can't wait to see what he does out on loan at Fleetwood. He's not mentioned here, but Owen Hampson has also gone out on loan. So I think it's Dunfermline, if memory serves me right, in the Scottish Championship. So wishing him all the best as well. Gus Hamer has 3 years to run on his contract. Hopefully a +1 in there, which I don't know whether this is. I haven't worked out whether this is considered the +1, but I will work that out at some stage. Callum O'Hare also on 4 years for Sheffield United. It's incredible, isn't it, what we've been able to do? And the brilliant Ben Berrett Diaz, who slots into our team perfectly, is on loan with the option to buy. I would like to think that should we be promoted, that will be a deal we're really keen to make permanent. And who knows, we're spending the amount of money at the moment that makes you wonder, even if we fall at the final hurdle, will he still be somebody that we consider bringing in on a permanent deal? We'll have to wait and see. Up front, we've got Tommy Cannon, super Tommy Cannon, who I think will prove to be a brilliant signing for Sheffield United. I've got a lot of faith in this boy. Wanted him for a long time. He comes in on a deal till 2029 with an option of a further year. Great signing for us. The only issue we've got, and I think it's not an issue, it's good. It's a good problem to have, if you like. The formation. What formation are we going with? because Callum O'Hare has made that 10 position his own, I would say. Not only that, Gustavo Ema is an outstanding number 10 at this level, but he's that good that he can play in other positions. So it's likely that we play with a 10. But look, that means we only, at the moment, in the current formation, we only play with one striker. We've got Tyrese Campbell for another 3 years, who's been absolutely outstanding since starting at Sheffield United, just been unlucky with injury. Kiefer Moore, a significant investment for Sheffield United, who's now, you could argue, the third choice striker with a 3-year deal and 32 years old. So I certainly don't think it was a mistake to bring Kiefer in. He offers us something different. I think we've now got a lot of variety in our attack, which is really, really good. You can see there that, as well as Jack Robinson on the previous page, Ryan Brewster is the man that's out of contract at the end of the season. Looking at the strength in numbers even there, you've got to think this might well be Ryan's last dance with Sheffield United. We shall see what happens with that. Ryan One signed a new 5-year deal recently with Sheffield United. Would have liked to have seen him go out on loan for the second half of this season, because I do think we've got enough, particularly considering that Brewster's still here and we only play one up top. That leaves us with the 4 that we've already mentioned. And obviously Jeff, that we've touched on as well, who's 22. I think we'll probably stay in and around the 21s at the moment. But again, may well impact us off the bench if we feel that he's good enough to do so. So that is it. That is exciting, isn't it? That's the current squad breakdown. And following that, next week's day after Tuesday. See, I will get it right, I promise. It's my own branding, so I've got to get it right. Next week's day after Tuesday, we will be doing a squad breakdown. So if you remember the old Ramble squad breakdown, where we looked at where the strengths are in the team, where the weaknesses are, and we give them a rating, because we give 2 people per position, and we give it a rating because of that, based on these metrics. So if you get a 1, you're a poor. 2, you're unproven to average. 3, you're solid to good. 4, you're very good. And 5, you're classed as excellent. And we do that for 2 players in each position. So right back, for example, which is a struggle in itself because there's 3 that can play right back now. But let's say Alfie moves inside. Harry Clark and Femi Sariki, they'll both get a rating out of 5. And that will give us an overall squad strength rating out of 10. So let me know your thoughts on that. That can feed into our day after Tuesday next week when we go through that. And now I've been rambling on for nearly half an hour. God, this lad can ramble, can't he? And I'm going to get into your comments. There's a lot of us, to be honest, as I say, it's a testing time in terms of the testing out the time slots and what works best for you guys. I wasn't expecting anywhere near as many as we got in and around transfer deadline, because that's, people make a special effort to, I'm just got a meeting, boss. Just got a meeting. I'm going to have my lunch early because I just need to find out what's happening. But if I can't obviously go with everybody's times, but we'll maybe test different time slots for this show. Obviously, it's going to be on the same day of the week every day, every time. But we need to find out what works for you guys as well. So Pixie starts us off today. How do, Jimmy lad? Loving these daytime lives. What a transfer window that was. The squad is so much better now. Like and subscribe. Up the Blades. Up behind the Ramble. Up the full-time Ramble. Dublin Blade says, was a bank holiday in Ireland on Monday, so I heard the show live. Brought my speaker into work and looking forward to hearing this one today as well. Thank you, pal. Drew says, afternoon, Jimmy. Not used to January windows like this. What's the summer going to be like if we get promoted? It should keep players on their toes. It certainly should, Drew, and I think there's a lot of excitement in the fan base. I see it in our chat at the moment in terms of what if we go up. There's a lot of opinions that think he will be strongly backed. Wilder will be strongly backed in the Premier League to keep us there, which we haven't had previously. We haven't been able to do previously. So exciting times, isn't it, pal? Rob says, afternoon, Jimmy. Loving these daytime slots, as can listen while I'm delivering my parcels. And what a window. Thank you, Rob, mate. Do you think Caceres will go out on loan or be an impact sub? Up the Blades, up the full-time Ramble. Thank you, mate. I think if we've got the opportunity to get Caceres out to a decent league abroad, I think we should look to take it personally. He's 22, so he's more against the clock than Chris is, if you like, the new Nigerian lad. I think it'd be interesting to see if we can get him out. I appreciate the UK or the English transfer window is now shut. I'm sure there'll be some windows abroad that we can look at. I would like to see him go out on loan, but I'm also not. I wouldn't be surprised to see him stay in and around as well. Just there was a lot of talk as well that neither of them speak very good English, apparently. So maybe acclimatizing them a little bit by staying here for the next 6 months might be something that the club are looking at doing as well. Harry says, hello, Jimmy. Hope you're okay, mate. He'd went in office to watch some of the stream. Thanks, Harry. How do you feel about the transfer window? Have you seen much of these new players up the Blades? Hopefully that gives you a little bit of an oversight, Harry. Obviously, highlight packages tend to only focus on the good. So take from that what you will. But yeah, I'm really pleased with the transfer window. Up the Ramble, says Mark. Thank you, pal. Cole says, afternoon, Jimmy. I think Jeff could feature for us this season, but Chris is probably like Sam Curtis, signed mainly for the 21s and will eventually loan him out at the Blades. Up the Ramble, like and subscribe. Maybe so, Cole. Maybe so. I haven't seen enough of them to see which, and the leagues that they're playing in isn't really a measure of how good they are. So it's a poor standard, if we're honest. But that doesn't mean they're not going to be able to go up the levels. Illiman and Dye started out at Boreham Wood, didn't he? Came into our 21s and then became a sensation. Ricky says, afternoon, Jimmy. Well, after all that, what are you thinking, mate? Hopefully that's giving you a little bit of understanding as to how I'm thinking, Rick. David says, afternoon, Jimmy. Loved the banter last night. You and Connor certainly have good connection. Up the Ramble, up the Blades, like and subscribe. Yeah, we're overdue. I was supposed to be doing a watch-along, a Burnley watch-along on Connor's second channel, the Connor McGilligan channel. Thanks to him for inviting me on. But I couldn't get the game. So I've got an engineer coming out from Sky tomorrow who's going to get an earful. And I know it's not their fault personally, but I'm really frustrated because I am paying through the nose for Sky. It's now my livelihood and I need this to work. But yes, David, as always, we still had a laugh. I had a great time with Connor and I always appreciate him inviting me on. I'll be back over there tomorrow doing battle lines as well. Cole says, still any news on the loan situation and how Chris will manage it? Also seems like Blaster could be back for the game against Wednesday. Is this true, mate? Up the Blades, up the Ramble, up behind the Ramble. I don't know when Blaster's due back, but I have heard murmurings that he may be back before the end of the season, which is a huge bonus because we were all expecting him to be out potentially for the season. In terms of the 6 loans, it's not ideal, is it? It's not ideal at all. Obviously, it's one that the club and the manager would have liked to avoid if they could have done. And they could, let's be right. But I'd rather have the option of having Rob Holding in the squad than not. And obviously, I think he will come in. I think it's Alfie Gilchrist that's going to miss out the majority of the time, if I'm honest, because the others have more of a direct impact on the first team. If you think Harry Clark has come in to replace Gilchrist, or as an alternative to Gilchrist, I would probably say, then I think that's the way it's going to go. Unfortunately for Alfie, because I really like him. Upset Jimmy at Burnley in second place. I work afternoon, so this is nice watching a live feed, not recorded. Thank you, Mark. Scott says, are we sure the internet is able to hold up today? Exactly, mate. I can't argue. I've just got to take all that on the chin, and that's a fair comment. Last night with Connor was funny. You two seem to have that duo comedy act. Well, yeah, maybe so. To be honest, it's always good when you can have banter with opposition fans. I get on well with Connor anyway, but it's good when you can have banter with opposition fans and it not get nasty. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, I want to stick up for us. He wants to stick up for them. And we both, nobody fakes anything. It's not forced. It's not pre-planned. So it's just raw what you see. We're Blades, they're Leeds, and we bang heads, don't we? And we want to finish above them. They want to finish above us. That's what it's about. Jeff says, afternoon, Jim. Just in from the gym. Nice. I'm enjoying the new format. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. Hope you had a decent workout. Jake says, hey up, Jimmy. Looks like I'll be here more often. Falling down the stairs at work this morning with the ladders and think I've fractured my coccyx. Oh, mate, sorry to hear that. So Jake's road to recovery on YouTube coming soon. Yes, mate. Yeah, absolutely. Spotlight actor Wayne. Good afternoon, mate. Hi, Jimmy. Great window for the Blades. Loved Andy the Blade. Top man. Up the Blades and up the Ramble, like and subscribe. Thank you, mate. Mark says your daddy's a legend, Jimmy. Absolutely. I hope that is, well, obviously it is what it is, but you've been missing out. I think if you've not seen my dad on the channel before, he will hate me talking like this about him, and because he don't think he brings anything particularly special. But I think I certainly get that. He's my dad, so I'm always going to have that sort of affinity to him and think, you know, he talks a lot of sense, even though. We disagree a lot on things, but I love having him on, and he's obviously, yeah, he goes down really well with you guys as well, and we want to bring you the content that you want. So, yeah, there'll be more of him to come. I'm sure, once I show him a few of the nice comments that you've given him. Thank God I'm self-employed, says Will, so no boss can tell me off for skiving. Keep up with all these rambles, up the blades, up the full-time ramble. Thank you to Will, one of our platinum ramblers, who will be taking part in our predictions video to come on the warm-up. He's done one of the games for us, so thank you for that, Will. Much appreciated, pal. Sheila's Wheels says, good to see Andy the Blade. Knew he was a scout, but didn't know he'd scouted at Chelsea and Everton. Hope you can get Cammy on. Cammy said he'll come on. Yeah, it's just working out whenever's good for him as well, to be honest. Yeah, my dad were a professional scout for 20 years. So, and he's been out of the game for 4 or 5 years now, maybe a little bit longer. So things have moved on. And like he was saying last night, or night before, whenever it was, you lose count quickly now. But when he was on stream, you quickly sort of lose touch with certainly the lower level players and the new players just coming into some squads this time. But in terms of if I gave him a game or he sat down and he watched a game with me, or any of you would be able to sort of just explain to you, it's not that he knows better than anybody else, but he'd talk you through it a different way than I would be normal, or before I did a bit of scouting, than I would be used to watching it. And that's how I learned to sort of break a game down. There's a lot more of it in the game now. People see it a lot more analytically, so people are able to give more informed opinions, which is great. But that's where I first saw it, when my dad sort of took me through games and stuff. David says, Andy the Blade is Ramble royalty. He absolutely is. He's the MVP of the channel. What a great show. Would be a monthly show with Andy the Blade. Yeah, I'll try and tie him in. Thing is, again, like I've said, I don't ever want to do something, and obviously I'm tied in. I've committed to doing a weekly show here now, but the same rules apply. If there's nothing to talk about, we'll either be on really quick and do a quick turnaround and say, thanks for joining us. We'll have a chat about the previous game or whatever, and we'll go. Or we'll knock it on head, because I don't want to just put rambles out for the sake of it, because then you sort of lose the quality, don't you? I'd rather focus on giving you a decent presentation if I can. Jimmy, you get the feeling Sheffield United is the new Man City, money like water now, says Mark. I don't think I get that feeling, to be honest, pal, but a man can dream. Fat Lad from Sheffield says, our transfer success remains to be seen. Fingers crossed. Watching Andy the Blade is good. Would like to see him again. He shoots from the hip, up the blades, up the right. He answers to nobody. He doesn't need to, mind his language. Well, he does on this channel, but in terms of, he doesn't have to, he tries to keep himself in order, but he's just honest, and that's what we want. Brilliant getting the Dozy flag out, says Dave. Oh, Dozy, my boozy, says Anelza Blade. Looks like 2 very exciting wingers, says Zonny. They can adapt to English. Fingers crossed they can adapt to English football. Joe says, can't lie, these 2 unknown wingers give me a bit of excitement. Let's hope they turn out to be hidden gems. Looking forward to the rest of the season. Jeff has to be straight into the first team up the Ramble. Where does he get in then, Joe? Does he get in for Raksaki when he's not been playing anywhere near the level? I'm not sure. I'm not sure personally. Jake says, Holding is a solid signing, but also feels like a slight panic buy. Would have fallen short. Oh, okay. So we're all Coventry tonight, ain't we, says Anthony. Absolutely right, we are. Yeah, and I have to apologise as well, because me and Jord were talking about hopefully doing a watch-along on Behind the Ramble, which is why I kept tonight free rather than do the warm-up tonight. But it's not on. I can't find it anywhere. And obviously we only do legal streams on this channel. So if I can't watch it, I can't bring you the watch-along. So I will be watching however I can, or monitoring the result, Anthony. But yes, we are certainly all with Frank Lampard's Coventry City this evening. It were weird last night on Connor's channel. We both were on the same page for 90 minutes, wanting Oxford to win together. And that didn't last very long, obviously. Holding is in the shop window now. It's his chance to restart his career, says David. I agree. Holding is giving me Kill Gallon vibes, says Danny. I love that. Yeah, absolutely. I can see that. I think Jeff's going to be a gamble sub if we need pace, I reckon. Would love to see Wilder trying to communicate with the new lads up the blades, up the Ramble. Look, every signing, and I know there's been some conjecture over this and concern that Wilder hasn't had any involvement with this at all. I don't think the club would try and fool you into thinking that Chris Wilder has been the main man that's pushed for these 2 lads to come in. But every signing that comes in, he's consulted on. So he is fully aware of what they can bring, and he will be fully aware of whether they're ready or not. It's not a case of he's being given players that he has to make work. He's aware of it, and he knows what they're about. Tim says, "Hi, Jimmy. I watched the first half. I watched the first half of the Burnley game last night and thought they were very ordinary. But Parker said that was them at their best. What do you think of them?" Well, Tim, to be honest, if I'd been able to watch it, I'd be able to tell you. But I couldn't get the game on. So I've had a heated discussion with Sky TV this morning, and they are coming out tomorrow to sort that out. So I will give you a better opinion, pal, when I'm able to see it. But from what I've seen so far, as we've discussed previously, very good defensively, very well organised. As soon as they lose possession, they're in a really strong, solid shape. They've got a lot of depth as well in the defensive ranks. I don't think they're great going forward, but they have now brought in a couple of options that can change the game from the bench potentially, and maybe even start once they get up to speed. So, yeah, they've strengthened well, Burnley, as have Sunderland, as have we. It's just Leeds that have been stagnant, really, and they fully believe, and they're probably justified, that they're the best squad at the start of the January transfer window. So that's why they haven't been as proactive or proactive at all as the rest of us. Thank you to Tim as well, who's also one of our Platinum Ramblers and done as a prediction. So he will be appearing on the warm-up tomorrow night. Ab says, "Afternoon, Jim. An L contract. Sign the ting, as they say." Absolutely. Sign the contract, big boy. Sign the contract. Jake says, "The two AI signings look incredible in their respective leagues. Hopefully they can adjust to the English leagues quickly and get firing for us or make us lots of dollar." I think that's the plan, Jake. Either or will do. Either or will do. But again, the one example I'll come back to, Benny Traore, looked incredible on his highlight package. And that's why it's a highlight package, because they show you the highs and don't focus on the lows. So we'll only know once they get here, won't we? Joe says, "My hope with the Nellies, if we got up and seized the owner's ambition and them spending money, I reckon he might commit to another 2 or 3 years. If not, we need to look at getting at least 8 to 10 million. I think he'll sign if we go up, Joe. I do. I'm confident he would. I know the offer that we were going to put to him 2 or 3 months ago, whether we actually did or not, I'm not sure now, but was really strong in terms of favoured the club, favoured him. It was a really good deal all round, and an ambitious offer as well from the club. Fat Lad from Sheffield says, "I know we're talking about the transfers, but it would be wonderful on Saturday if Sheffield United dedicated a minute's applause on the 15th minute for Harvey Wilgoose. There is also a GoFundMe. Thank you." Well, it seems a bit out of turn calling you Fat Lad from Sheffield now, but thank you for bringing that up, mate. Yes, absolutely right. Harvey, who we tragically lost to knife crime earlier in the week. There is a GoFundMe, which I have reposted on X. If anybody's follows me on there, if you're interested in donating and supporting the family in funeral costs, 15 years old. So we're looking at hopefully doing a minute's applause on at the game on Saturday in the 15th minute. So yeah, absolutely. And all our support and thoughts are with the family of Harvey. It's such a sad tale. But yeah, absolutely right that you bring that up. So thank you for that. Knew the flag had come in handy, says Dublin Blade. Never took a flag away. You never know. We are the global Blades, the global Ramble and the global Blades. Absolutely right. But does he like Guinness? Don't know. Yet to go for a beer with him, with Chris, but we'll see. Josh says, "Maybe I'm crazy, but can Hamza play centre-back next to a Nell?" No, I wouldn't have said so. Well, I'm sure he could do a decent job there. He's played right back for Leicester, hasn't he? Fairly regularly. But I think we'll use him in centre midfield. Probably better than Jackie Longthrow, says Bobby. Jez Raki needs to improve. Jez Raki. What were he on about? What was he on about, Muscat? Unbelievable. Lunchtime Ramble, says Ian. Can't beat it. Up the Blades, up the Ramble. Like and subscribe. Thank you, mate. Lee says, "How many of them players are Premier League ready?" Well, if we were a Premier League club, I think that's a fair argument. We're not. We have to get there. We have to get. Look, the ideal signings are Michael Cooper's every time. Harrison Burrows, Callum O'Hare, these players that you think you can invest in now and they have the potential to get to the Premier League. But sometimes you just have to. Otherwise, that's like saying, what's point in signing anybody on loan? Because they're only here for a short period of time. So we don't know about the two unknown kids, do we? That's fair to say. They could either be huge hits, huge misses, or anything in between. Who else have we brought in? Harry Clark, short-term loan to try and get us over the line. Ben Burton Diaz, short-term loan, same issue, but also got the option if he works. Hamza Chowdhury, exactly the same, option if he works. Tom Cannon, huge investment for the future. What I don't see where we're going wrong. Rob Holding, yeah, too many loans, no doubt about it, and that's a different conversation. They don't need to be Premier League, particularly if they're loans. They don't need to be Premier League ready. They just need to be good enough to get us out of the Championship. That's the main focus, Lee, for me, is getting there first. We can't always sign Gus Amers every couple of weeks in a window. Mark says, Jimmy, I guess with all the dosh we have now, what's our next player? We are weak. There won't be any more players to come until the summer now, pal. So the squad is the squad until the end of the season. Did you say O'Hare outstanding in the 10? If I said outstanding, maybe that's a little bit over exuberant from me, Bob. That's fair. I think O'Hare, and I know I've said it a lot in the group. I think I've said it a couple of times on stream, but just to be clear, I think he started off very underwhelming. For the first 6 or 7 games, I wasn't impressed. He came with a big reputation, and that's not his fault, but he was seen to be the main boy at Coventry after Gyökeres and Hamer left. And after a big injury, I didn't really see what impact he was going to give us. I don't think he's as quick as a lot of us believed he would be. I don't think he's overall as impactful and as creative as a lot of us thought he would be. However, certainly the last 10 games, with the odd iffy performance, I think he's been very, very good for us. I think he's been one of the standout players. So outstanding is a stretch. I'll give you that, Bobby, but you have to also give credit where it's due. And I think he's turned his slightly underwhelming Sheffield United career around to be quite a decent one, to be honest, so far. O'Hare is lightweight, never wins tackles, says Fatty Folk. Poor scoring record, just buzzes about till Duracell runs out. He never stops. The other way of describing that is he never stops running. He never runs out of gas. He presses really high and forces the opposition to be uncomfortable in possession. And that's just one element of his game. I think he links the midfield and the attack really well. I don't think he's the finished article by any means, but like we say with a lot of these players, if they were as good as we wanted them to be, they wouldn't be playing for Sheffield United, would they? Bob Young says, hi, Jimmy, not impressed with of late with Sunderland. Burnley send me to sleep. So I hope you guys keep the momentum and join us in the Premier League, marching on together. Thank you, Bob. Appreciate the comment. It's from a very confident Leeds fan. But you would be, wouldn't you? The 5 points clear. So, or they were until last night. 2 points clear with a game in hand. Hi, Jimmy. It's great listening while I'm out, but I'm with Fatty Folk about O'Hare. Sorry, up the blades, up the ramp. No problem, Michael. You can. It's an opinion, isn't it? Absolutely right. You're more than entitled to it. Beast Boy says, afternoon, Jimmy. Afternoon, mate. Don't know why you're shouting at me. Jake says, wouldn't say O'Hare is really on the pitch to make tackles. He's there to be a nuisance, pull players out of position, push them back with the press, and he's great at intricate passes behind the defenders. It's a lot of the stuff that you don't always see, Jake, and I think it's a great point in terms of pulling players out of position that he's bang right, forcing them into difficult decisions with the high press. Have you seen Jeff's highlights? Looks like a baller. Can he do it in the champ? Pixie, I've just played you some highlights of Jeff. So yes, I have. But we will not know if he can do it in the champ until he's tested there, will we? Because the levels are completely different. Charlie says, do you not think Chris would have rather had those funds to spend on unknown wingers to sign a centre half? Maybe so, Charlie. Maybe so. Maybe it just wasn't. Thing is, we've seen, if you remember, do you remember the documentary that the club did? And I don't know how old you are, Charlie, so you may not, to be fair, pal. But it were a very rare documentary where they went behind the scenes with Chris Wilder in his first stint as manager on deadline day. And we were looking at signing Devante Cole. And he were quoted 500 grand. I think it would buy Fleetwood at the time. And he said, "Nah, I'm not going to 500 grand. I don't think he's worth it." It wasn't that we couldn't have got him. It was that Wilder didn't want to go to the amount to pay for him. So he didn't think the value was there. So if you think about that, I think we could have had Jimmy done on deadline day. But I think it's a matter of principle sometimes, in so much as if QPR are saying, no, we want 2 million, and then we bid 2 million, and they say, actually, we want 3 million, then you might say, nanas to you then. No, you're not doing this. You're not having us over a barrel. You're not making mugs of us. We're going to walk away. So I think don't feel like it has been taken out of Chris Wilder's hands. I don't know this for sure, by the way, but I would be amazed. I don't think he'd stand for it, for one, because he's now got a new contract and he's a lot more secure, and he would say if he was, he's very professional now, but other fans may disagree. But I think him and the club are definitely on the same page now. But I also think he will have had oversight of every deal that we've done. Jack says, I think it's been a very strong window, but I think our weakest area on paper, which was the most important signing, and that's holding. But we shall see. We will, Jack. We'll come back to this conversation, pal, after his next 10 games and see what we think. And you might be right, or I might be right, and that's fair. Up the Blades, up the Ramble. Down with the sky, says Mark. Yeah, absolutely. Rich says, brilliant, Jimmy, loving the daytime content. Thanks. No problem, pal. Up the daytime rambles. Thank you, mate. Nige says, afternoon, Jimmy. I hope all is well. No complaints from the signings. Up the Blades, up the Ramble, up behind the Ramble. Like and subscribe. On the point of Wilder not being involved in the last two signing, at the start of the season, we did agree that Wilder should have his hand in we did agree that Wilder shouldn't have his hand in everything. But anyways, good signings. Now let's get it clicking on the field. Benny is a good example. However, he was thrown into the Prem. He was. David says, Jimmy, you keep saying the standard of the Peruvian league is not good, but my contact tells me it's championship level. I phoned Paddington for his views. Sorry, yeah. Well, your source would know better, to be fair. Tom says, afternoon, Jim. Just popped on to say hello. Thank you, mate. Hello to you. Hello to you. Before I head over to All Saints to lay some flowers. Very happy with the signings, up the Blades, up the full-time Ramble. Yeah, all the best, pal. That's for Harvey, for those that aren't aware. Security Blade says, love the Ramble. Always keeps me up to date. If I miss anything Blades related, up the Blades, up the Ramble. Thank you, pal. Tommy K says, be so funny if you and Burnley can finish top 2 and Leeds lose in the playoffs again. Up the Forest. That would be absolutely hilarious, mate. I'm not going to lie to you. I would laugh my head off. Although I have gained some Leeds United acquaintances through my work with Connor. But yeah, let's call it as it is. I'd absolutely love it. Work mode, you're doing a great job, Jimmy. I'm pressed too early, says Mark. No worries. Stevie Holmes, good evening, mate. Oh, good evening. That's a standard go-to for me. Good afternoon, pal. Let's hope the AI is decent enough to produce players to go into the first team. The Brighton and Brentford model seems to work. However, how many have been useless or very poor? Guess not too many. And they're also on a bigger foundation than us, Steve, aren't they? They can invest 2, 3, 4, 5 million in players that are unknown. And if it don't work, then they can probably write them off. Whereas certainly while we're not a Premier League club, it's a different tale for us. We have to go for sort of, lower outgoings, I think, even though we've spent a little bit on it. My only grumble about this season, says Jack, is playing Hamer out of position. Where would you play him then, Jack? Where would you play Gus Hamer? I understand it, and I agree to a certain degree, but where do you play him? Because if you play him in the 10, where I think he's best, then Callum O'Hare's got to move out of position. If you play him in the 8, which you can also do a really good job in, then you drop in Hamza Chowdhury or Vinny Souza, or when he's back, Ollie Arblaster, which again just doesn't sound right, does it? Hamer has to be in the team, no doubt about it. I don't think he goes on the left now, unless Brereton Diaz goes back on the right. I think he ends up on one of the wings. Martin says, afternoon, Jim. Can I just say what a brilliant show of respect from the ref at Rotherham last night? Absolutely right it was. And the Rotherham and Bradford fans singing that poor boy's name at this time, football is one big family. So for those that don't know, in the 15th minute, Martin's referring to the Rotherham and Bradford game stopped, and there was a minute's applause for Harvey. It's absolutely tragic. But yeah, the only silver lining that comes out of these situations is it shows the football community can come together and mourn and pay respect. Obviously, you'd much rather it didn't happen, but it's, yeah. I do recall this, actually, says Charlie. One thing I always remember is he treats the club's money as his own. He's always said he'll do that, and that's, I think you sometimes take it with a pinch of salt when a manager says that a little bit, really, but I believe him. I believe him. That doesn't mean I don't think he'll make big spending deals, because I think he will, but I think he does everything with the right frame of mind for the club about him. Jimmy, all fit. What's the starting 11? And is Callum O'Hare on the bench? I'll give you my starting 11 on the warm-up tomorrow, Security Blade. That's what that's for. So, but I'm happy to take yours if you want to give me yours now. Charlie says, I think we've been really smart with Tanganga. Showed interest now in January for if we go up in the summer, a bit like we did with Cannon. Moving in the right direction for sure. Smart, Blades. I agree, Charlie. I think it's really clever on a few different fronts. Zonny says, get that like button pressed. All will help Jimmy support his family now. He's full-time. Thank you, Zonny. Thank you, mate. Really does help. If any, what changes would you have made in the summer and January window, says Jack. Without going into too much, because obviously I don't want to keep everybody too long, but I would have gone for a permanent centre-half, and that might have meant overpaying. So I'm not saying it's wrong that we didn't, but I would have liked to have had a permanent centre-half, and then we were able to use the loans freely, like we can't at the moment. How much did we spend on the two wingers? I think it was less than £2 million altogether, Dan, combined. Reckon we will be able to recoup it regardless. Always nice to have a couple of random players to get people talking. I agree. I think it's just a different strand to get excited about, isn't it? Jack says, I'd have played him in the 10, Hamer, and used O'Hare as that strength off the bench, moving him into the 10 and then Hamer into the 8 when Peck needed a break. Okay, interesting. That's fair. What's more important, going up or keeping O'Hare happy? Don't mean we're not going up, does it? We're second in league. We've accrued same points as top team. So we've done all right with O'Hare playing. It's a matter of opinion, though, Jack, to be fair. Wilder's a fan like us, so we'll always do the best for the club. Jack says a system with wingers need wingers. If not, it throws the balance off. I think that's fair. I think that's a fair point. But Gus Hamer is a class above. And he's not done a bad job from the left, has he? Dino says, missing out on some kip me with these snap-time rambles. Sorry, mate. Robinson won't lose his place either. He's not been too bad. Decent championship centre-half, same as an L. Up the Blades, up the Ramble. I disagree, Dino, other than it'll depend on Holding's fitness. So I don't know if Robbo comes straight out, but I certainly think once Holding's up to speed, Robbo is out. Getting your money's worth out of that flag, says Jimmy. Up the full-time Ramble, up the Blades. Look, us Yorkshiremen, we have to get his money's worth out of stuff, don't we? Mark says, when I first watched the channel, I didn't understand the abbreviations. Lol. Oh, yeah. Well, imagine running the channel and not understanding some of the abbreviations. Jack says, I also can't take away how Wilder has done with us playing Hamer on the left. He's done amazing. Absolutely right. There's different ways to look at it, isn't there, pal? So that takes us neatly to just short of an hour. I want to thank everybody for joining me for this first official episode of the Day After Tuesday. They will vary. We'll be talking about whatever's happening at the club during the time. And again, we'll maybe experiment with the time slots and things like that, see what suits everybody best. But appreciate your feedback as always. Thank you for everybody's support of the channel. You'll next see me. I'm not planned to come on tonight, but the way the club's moving and things that happen, I'm always, keep your notifications on if you're subscribed. It's completely free to subscribe. Keep your notifications on, and then you'll know if we're suddenly going live for whatever reason it might be. But the next time you'll see me, I'm scheduled to be on, is tomorrow night for the warm-up. But we don't know whether Wilder's doing a presser tomorrow or Friday yet, or I certainly don't. If he's doing a presser tomorrow, you'll see me for hot off the presser straight after that press conference. So keep it Ramble, get them notifications on. Come on, you red and white wizards. Up the Blade!